If you've ever had a gout flare so painful you could barely walk, if you've ever stared at your swollen foot, feeling like someone took a hammer to your big toe, then you already know. This isn't just some minor inconvenience. Gout can break you. It can bring grown men to tears. It can make a strong woman dread waking up in the morning. I've heard stories of folks ready to cut off their own foot just to stop the pain. That's not dramatic. That's the reality for many people. Maybe that's been your reality too. And if it has, you've probably been told the same old story. It's the red meat, it's the shellfish. You brought this on yourself. But what if I told you that's not the full story? What if the real cause of your pain wasn't the steak on your plate, but something far more hidden, far more damaging, and far more common in the modern diet? Today we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what really triggers your gout and how you might be able to live pain-free again without giving up the foods you love. You've heard it 100 times, maybe 1,000. Red meat causes gout. That message has been drilled into us for decades by doctors, by dietitians, even by well-meaning family members. And so, like many others, you may have said goodbye to steak, to pork chops, to lobster, and thought you were doing the right thing. But here's the question we have to ask. If red meat is really the cause, why do some people who eat no meat at all still suffer from gout? And why are others eating ribeyes every day without a single flare-up? Something doesn't add up. Let's go deeper. You see, this old theory is based on the fact that meat contains purines, and purines break down into uric acid. Fair enough. But that's just one piece of the puzzle, because not everyone with high uric acid gets gout, and not everyone with gout has a high purine diet. So what's going on here? Why are we still blaming the steak? The truth is, blaming red meat is like blaming the rain for a flood, when the real problem is a broken dam. The flood isn't just about the rain, it's about the system that was supposed to handle it. What if your body's internal system, your metabolism, your inflammation levels, your ability to process and clear uric acid, is what truly determines whether you flare or not? That's what this video is about. It's time to rethink what we've been told and start looking at what's really going on underneath. If you're new here, I'm Dr. Tony Hampton. I'm a board-certified obesity medicine specialist, a family doctor, and someone who spent over 2 decades helping patients break free from chronic illness, often by doing the exact opposite of what the mainstream guidelines suggest. My passion is metabolic health, because when you fix the metabolism, everything starts to shift. Gout, diabetes, blood pressure, joint pain, they're all connected. I don't believe in Band-Aid solutions. I believe in helping you understand what's happening inside your body so you can take back control. Without fear, without confusion, and yes, often without prescriptions. And I've seen firsthand, time and time again, that when people get the right information, they make incredible changes. They heal. They thrive, even in their 60s, 70s, and beyond. That's what this channel is for. And if you've been struggling with gout, you're in the right place. Let's break down what purines actually are. Purines are compounds found in many foods. Yes, including red meat and seafood, but also in vegetables like spinach, and even in your own body cells. When purines are broken down, they produce uric acid. So the theory sounds simple. Eat more purines, produce more uric acid, get more gout. Right? Well, not quite. Because here's the problem. Many people with high uric acid levels never develop gout. And many people who suffer from gout don't have outrageously high purine intake. That tells us there's more going on. Think of uric acid like smoke from a fire. The purines might be the logs, but you still need a spark and the oxygen to keep it burning. In the case of gout, that spark is inflammation. That oxygen, it's metabolic dysfunction. Your body can handle uric acid if the system that clears it is working well. And that system depends on your kidneys, your insulin sensitivity, and your level of systemic inflammation. So unless you're literally bathing in purines all day, eating a piece of steak isn't what tips you into a flare. The problem is the environment inside your body. When your metabolism is damaged and your inflammation is high, even normal uric acid levels can trigger a flare. Instead of just asking how much uric acid is there, we need to ask, why isn't your body handling it properly? That's where the real answers are hiding. Now let's talk about the real villains in this story, the ones most people overlook, the ones that don't come from a cow or a lobster. The first, fructose, especially from sugar and high fructose corn syrup. Fructose is metabolized in the liver, but unlike glucose, which fuels your cells, fructose depletes your liver's energy stores, specifically ATP. And when that happens, your body creates a surge of uric acid as a byproduct, not because of purines, but because of how fructose hijacks your metabolism. In fact, studies have shown that just a single serving of high fructose corn syrup can spike uric acid levels within minutes. And when that becomes a daily habit, soft drinks, sweetened cereals, processed snacks, you're constantly flooding your system with uric acid. But fructose isn't working alone. There's a second accomplice, insulin resistance. When your body becomes resistant to insulin, often from years of eating processed carbs and sugar, it loses the ability to excrete uric acid efficiently. The kidneys, overwhelmed by elevated insulin levels, simply stop flushing it out the way they should. So here's the real sequence. Sugar raises insulin. Insulin damages your kidney's ability to clear uric acid, and uric acid builds up. Not necessarily because you ate meat, but because your body can't clear the load anymore. Think about it. Two people eat the same steak. One gets a flare, the other doesn't. Why? It's not the steak. It's the metabolic state. This is why some of my patients have dropped their gout flares dramatically, not by cutting red meat, but by cutting sugar. It's not the protein on your plate, it's the poison in your pantry. Let me tell you about a patient who could be someone you know, or maybe even someone like you. He was 67 years old, had been dealing with chronic gout for years, and was also diagnosed with stage 2 chronic kidney disease. He wasn't overweight. In fact, he looked relatively healthy on the outside, but inside his labs told a different story. High uric acid, worsening kidney function, and fasting glucose that was creeping up year after year. He came to me frustrated. He had already cut back on red meat. He tried plant-based meals, watched his salt, drank more water. Nothing seemed to work. And like many folks his age, he was tired of feeling like the medications were just patching over the symptoms. So we did something radical, not by adding more pills, but by removing the real triggers. He eliminated fructose, cut the processed carbs, and we introduced a low-carb, nutrient-dense diet, mostly animal-based foods with zero refined sugar. Within 4 months, everything started to change. His uric acid levels dropped. His eGFR, the number that reflects kidney function, climbed back into the normal range. Fasting glucose came down. But most importantly, his gout flares stopped. No medication adjustments, no new prescriptions, just food, and the right food at that. You see, once we removed the metabolic burden, his body remembered how to heal. Instead of fearing meat, he embraced it, nourishing his body with high-quality protein while cutting out the sugars that had been slowly damaging him for years. He told me later, "Doc, I feel like I got 10 years of my life back." And honestly, at 67, that's priceless. Now let's talk about someone who redefined what's possible at any age. A woman, 71 years old, who once believed her best days were behind her. When she first started seeing signs of gout, she did what most folks are told to do. She cut out red meat. She went low-fat, high-carb, She followed the food pyramid, but the pain didn't stop. Then came another diagnosis, stage 3 chronic kidney disease. On top of that, her blood pressure was rising and her energy was gone. Her joints ached constantly. She felt old, not just in years, but in spirit. To make things worse, she couldn't tolerate the standard gout medications because of her kidneys. So she was stuck between a rock and a hard place. She couldn't eat what she wanted, she couldn't take what they prescribed, and she couldn't see a way forward. That's when she found the courage to try something different. She committed to cutting out all grains, all sugar, all processed foods. She went strict keto, then eventually leaned into a carnivore approach. In just a few months, her gout flares stopped completely. Her energy returned. And over the course of a year, she lost 130 pounds. But the story doesn't end there. Her blood pressure normalized. Her kidney function improved to the point that her doctor no longer classified her as having kidney disease. Her joints stopped aching. And most of all, she felt alive again. At 71, she looked in the mirror and saw someone she hadn't seen in decades. She told me, "Doc, I'm never going back to that so-called normal diet again. That diet was killing me slowly." And she's right. Because for her, and for so many others, it's not about age, it's about information. When you give your body the right tools, healing can happen, even in your 70s. Now let's talk about something that catches many people off guard, the transition phase. Let's say you're ready to give this a try. You cut out the sugar, drop the bread, and embrace low-carb or carnivore eating. For a few days, maybe a week, you feel good, until suddenly that familiar pain creeps back in. You wonder, why is this happening? I thought this diet was supposed to help. The answer? When your body enters ketosis for the first time, it starts producing ketones, an alternative fuel. But here's the catch. Ketones and uric acid both exit the body through the same pathways in the kidneys. In the early stages, they compete for clearance. That means uric acid can temporarily rise, even if your intake hasn't changed. And if you're prone to flares, that spike can trigger one. But here's the good news. It's temporary. Once your body becomes keto adapted, that competition settles down. The kidneys adjust. And for many, flare-ups become rare or disappear entirely. So how do we prevent that rocky transition? I give my patients two strategies. Option one is what I call the gradual slide. Instead of jumping straight into keto, ease your carbs down over a few weeks. Maybe start at 100 grams per day, then move to 75, then 50, then 30. This gives your kidneys time to adapt without overwhelming them. Option two is the strategic jump with support. If you're ready to go full keto or carnivore from day one, we can use temporary medications, like allopurinol to reduce uric acid production or colchicine to lower flare risk. After the transition, many people can come off these meds entirely. The key is this: don't let a short-term flare make you give up on a long-term solution. Just because the road has a bump doesn't mean you're on the wrong path. With the right strategy, you can get through that phase and come out stronger, more stable, and often completely flare-free. Quick question. Have you ever been told that red meat causes gout? If you have, drop a comment below and just say, "Me too." I want to know how many of you were given that same advice. And if you've already started cutting out sugar or going low carb, let us know what's changed for you. You might inspire someone else watching right now. Sometimes the best thing you can do for your health is share your story. Now here's something that doesn't get talked about enough: the trap of bouncing in and out of ketosis. Let's say you've gone low carb or carnivore for a few weeks. You're starting to feel better. But then the weekend hits. A birthday party, a holiday, a glass of wine here, a slice of cake there. You tell yourself it's just one cheat day. But what you may not realize is that each time you reintroduce high-carb foods, especially sugar or alcohol, you're flipping your metabolism like a switch. And when you swing back into ketosis a few days later, ketones surge again, competing once more with uric acid for excretion. That temporary bottleneck, it can lead to another flare. It's like setting a trap for yourself over and over, not because of the steak, but because of the cycle. So what do I tell my patients? Choose your lane. Either stay consistently low carb so your body remains metabolically stable and inflammation stays low. Or if you know you'll be cycling in and out, talk to your doctor about temporary flare protection during those transitions. Because while your body can adapt, it doesn't like to be yanked around, especially if you're already vulnerable. Instead of roller coastering through diets, give your body a steady path. That's how you move from flare up to freedom. Let's pull all this together. You've been told that gout is about purines. And yes, purines do play a role. They break down into uric acid. But here's what the science really shows. That's only one piece of the puzzle. Research from top journals like BMJ Open and Circulation has confirmed that fructose, not purines, is a major driver of uric acid spikes. When you consume high fructose corn syrup, fruit juice, or processed sugar, your liver goes into overdrive. It burns through energy stores and pumps out uric acid at high speed. That's your first hit. Then comes insulin resistance. When your body's inflamed and metabolically unhealthy, your kidneys can't flush out uric acid like they should. So what used to be manageable builds up. That's your second hit. And that's how gout is born. Not just from what's on your plate, but from what's happening inside your body. Now add in another layer, inflammation. A flare doesn't happen just because uric acid is there. It happens when your immune system goes into overdrive. And what feeds that fire? High carb, high omega-6, highly processed foods that we've been sold as heart healthy for decades. So here's the real story. Fructose raises uric acid. Insulin resistance blocks its clearance. Inflammation tips the immune system into attack mode. But flip the script and look what happens. Cut the sugar, uric acid drops. Improve insulin sensitivity. Kidneys start clearing it again. Reduce inflammation. No immune overreaction. That's the pathway to real relief. This is why a well-formulated low-carb, keto, or even carnivore diet can be so powerful. It's not about eating extreme. It's about removing the metabolic mess that's been quietly wrecking your system. Instead of fearing steak, start fearing what's really been hurting you. Refined carbs, sugars, industrial oils, and chronic inflammation. Because when you fix the root, you don't just lower uric acid, you reclaim your health. If this message resonated with you, do me a favor. Hit that like button. Subscribe so you don't miss the next video. And please share this with someone in your life who's been blaming their steak for their swollen toe. They deserve to know the truth. Because here's the bottom line. You don't have to suffer in silence. You don't have to keep bouncing from flare to flare, always wondering what went wrong. There is a way out. You can eat well, live well, and most importantly, you can heal. Not with fear, not with fads, but with knowledge, strategy, and the courage to question what you've been told. And if you're still worried about salt and blood pressure, especially while eating a low-carb or carnivore diet, then don't miss the next episode. We're going to bust another myth wide open. I'll show you what the science really says about sodium, hydration, and heart health. And trust me, it's not what you've heard. Until then, stay curious, stay committed, and as always, protect your nest.